Street apologists. 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 On the radio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Street Apologists Live. I'll be your host tonight, Vocab, and we're going to be talking about criticism of the Qur'an with Hatun Tash, Pastor George Saeig, and Anthony Rogers. Thursday, August 24th, 2023, 10 till 7. Let's go!
How many roads? Too many signs, I can't read them. Wouldn't recognize the turn even if I seen it. Been driving all along, feel like I'm dreaming. Okay.
Boom! All right, let's do this, people. Listen, if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe to this channel. Over 49.5%, I think, people who watch these videos are actually not subscribed. And if you are already subscribed, make sure you hit that bell. And look, to comment, I think I've set it up where you've got to be a subscriber. So if you want to comment, then you've got to be a subscriber. You know what I mean? So come on, you can do it. But like I said, make sure that you hit that bell. And I love what we're doing tonight. I'm excited about the panelists. So let's just get right into it as we bring them up. This is going to be epic tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have Anthony Rogers. We have Pastor George Saeig. We have Hatun Tash talking about criticism of the Qur'an. Welcome to the panel, ladies and gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good, good.
Well.
How are you?
Thank you.
It's that time of year, pretty soon, and you guys are going to have a conference, Ministry to Muslims. Pastor George, what's going on this year before we get into our topic? Tell them.
The 22nd annual conference, Our Strong Tower, 22 years ago when September 11 happened, and it is a memory of that, what it being done in by the name of Allah, and we trying to educate the body of Christ in what Islam is, but our ultimate goal is to see Muslims coming to Christ. We want to see more people, more Christians being equipped in how to answer Muslim objections, how to share the gospel with Muslims. Our ultimate goal is to see Muslims coming to know Christ as a Lord and Savior.
Excellent. The topic this year, what is the topic this year at Our Strong Tower, taking place in OC Cali?
Usually we have many different topics. We have apologetics, polemics, evangelism topics, different topics. I give the speakers to choose some of the topics. But this year, all of us, we are focusing on the Quran. Why the Quran? Why we our main theme, dismantling the Quran. Why the Quran? Why we chose the Quran? Because of the Quran, because of the commands of the Quran, we see what happened in September 11. Because of the commands of the Quran command them to do what they done in September 11. And because not just the Quran as a book doesn't do anything to us, but because Muslims following the Quran blindly without questioning the Quran, we want to take it apart. We want to show the Muslims what the Quran really is, what they are following blindly really is. And there are so many things, like one of the things that I always being told by Muslims, there is only one perfect Quran. There's only one perfect Quran. And I always, I thought, not the worst. I trying to think of not all the Muslims lying to me. I'm trying to think, okay, maybe the majority of them did not know there's more than one Arabic Quran. And I thought, and I'm assuming they will, if they really truly know and not lying to me, maybe they would like to know the facts when we present the evidence to them, how many Qur'ans in Arabic are there.
Yeah, it's true, everyone, what Pastor George is saying. There's a famous book that came out in 1921. Pakistani scholar Maulana Muhammad Ali, and here's what he wrote. So listen, this is a quote, and you can get this book. It's called Muhammad and Christ. You can get it online. Just type in the title and the author. It's readily available PDF form. This is a quote from that book. The Quran is one, and no copy differing in even a diacritical point is met with in one among the 400 millions of Muslims. That's one quote. Listen to this next quote. There are and always have been contending sects, but the same Quran is in the possession of one and all. Last quote from the same book, Maulana Muhammad Ali, 1921, Muhammad and Christ. It's still in print. A manuscript with the slightest variation in the text is unknown. Well, we're going to make it known here tonight. Tony Rogers, before I get to Hatun, what are you going to be talking about at the conference? Don't give away everything because we got to do tonight's topic. But what are you going to be talking about? And what are you going to do? Are you going to be a fun guy there? Are you a fun guy to hang out with? What's going on in this conference in Anthony Rogers?
No, I'm as boring as molasses. So don't try to hang out with me. Don't try to be friends. I'm kidding, of course. I'm a barrel of fun. But as far as my topic, I'm going to be critiquing the Quran's claim to clarity. The Quran claims to be a perspicuous book. In fact, if you look at the Quran in the order in which the alleged revelations were given, that is, not according to the order in which these surahs are found in the Quran, but if you actually get a list, you can get these online, you can find them in a number of places, but if you get a list of the order in which the surahs were given, you can see that Muhammad, from the beginning and throughout the course, for the most part, of his quote-unquote 23 years of prophetic status, he was claiming that the Quran was a clear book, and as such, it was going to chase away the clouds, chase away the errors, the confusion under which Jews and Christians were laboring, not just pagans. And so that was the boast, one of the boasts of the Quran, that this is a clear revelation. Well, all it took was one delegation of Christians in the final year of Muhammad's life to come up and start asking him some challenging questions, such as, well, Muhammad, if Allah is but one and not a trinity, why does he speak in the plural? Because Muhammad had surreptitiously picked up, like a dog picks up fleas, Allah speaking in the plural, right? The Bible does this. The Bible has God speaking in the plural. Let us make man in our image, for example. So Muhammad is challenged on this point. He apparently didn't know why Jews and Christians presented God speaking this way and mimicked it in the Quran. And so he's questioned on it by the Christians of Najran, and they asked him all sorts of other questions. They asked him, if Jesus is not the Son of God, then who's his father? They asked him how it is that he's sinless and performed miracles and these sorts of things. And a lot of Muslims, if you were to put this question to them, what do you think Muhammad did when the Christians of Najran asked him these questions, they'd probably say, well, he quickly answered and refuted them and so forth. But according to the biography of Muhammad and other sources of information on this, Muhammad basically clammed up. He had nothing to say until the next day when he came back after having thought about it and then put forth what was supposed to be an answer. And the answer comes in Surah 3, verse 7. If you read the accounts of the so-called occasion of revelation, which that's the Islamic science of talking about what occasioned the revelation or sending down of a particular surah, they'll tell you that the first 80 verses of Surah Al Imran, Surah 3, were given in response to the Najrani Christians. So when you look at verse 7, it all of a sudden, this book that claims to be clear, suddenly it says, some things in the book are unclear. Okay, so the problem here in part is that Muhammad this qualification doesn't enter into the scenario until towards the end of his prophetic career. So it would have been news.
Wait. So can I read it? Because I don't even remember this verse. Is it okay if I read it? Because I got the clear Quran out.
Actually, the clear Quran.
That's why I have it. And guess who gave this to me? Any guesses who gave this to me?
Oh boy,
our friend in Balboa Park.
Oh, Uthman. Okay.
Yeah, so he gave me this clear Quran. So here's what it says. Exactly what you're saying. This is 3:7. He is the one who has revealed to you, O Prophet, the book, of which some verses are precise. They are the foundation of the book, while others are elusive. Those with deviant hearts, like Anthony Rogers, follow the elusive verses, seeking to spread doubt through their false interpretations, but none grasps their full meaning except God.
So only Allah knows the meaning of these verses. Now, that verse, or that clear Quran is actually fudging a good bit. First of all, it's not precise and imprecise. It's clear and unclear. Certain verses are clear, some are unclear. And what it actually says is only Allah knows the meaning of the unclear verses. But the other thing is, real quickly, because I don't want to give you my whole thing now, you got to come to the conference for this, but it says, the way you read it, it says in the clear Quran, these are the foundation of the book, the clear verses. But the Arabic is al-Kitab. What does that mean, George? Al-Kitab.
The mother of the book.
Right. So it's saying that the clear verses are the mother of the book. Now, ask yourself this question. If only Allah knows the meaning of the unclear verses, and anybody who tries to understand them is somebody who's got a deviant heart, you read the verse, then you'd want to not try and interpret those verses, right? Because that would show you have a deviant heart. It would show that you're not submitting to Allah and so forth. Well, then you should know what those unclear verses are, lest you just think, well, maybe I'm just misunderstanding a clear verse, right? You want to know what these verses are ahead of time, lest you put yourself on the wrong side of Allah. Well, but here's the kicker. When you look at the Islamic sources and ask, what do the Islamic sources tell us about the mother of the book? What is the mother of the book? Well, the strongest tradition in the Islamic sources, get this, al-Kitab refers to the 7 oft-repeated verses. What are the 7 oft-repeated verses? This is further clarified in the sources, but I'm wondering if anybody knows this offhand. What would you think are the 7 oft-repeated verses? What verses of the Quran do Muslims cite numerous times a day in their prayers? Well, I won't put anybody on the spot. Yeah, it's Surah Al Fatiha, right? The first surah of the Quran. So if this is the right interpretation, notice even this is problematic, right? Because the Quran doesn't tell us that this is the right interpretation. I'm going based on extraneous information in the Islamic sources, such as the Hadith, the Sirah literature, and so forth. But the al-Kitab, according to the traditions of Muhammad, is Surah Al Fatiha, which means Surah 1 is clear, the rest of the Quran is unclear. That doesn't strike me as the kind of book that you want to promote as this grand. You wouldn't want to put, does it make sense, Vocab, to put on the title of your Quran translation, the clear Quran, if only one chapter happens to be clear? And by the way, I could poke holes in the claim that the first chapter is clear, but 113 chapters are unclear and only one is clear at the end of the day? We need a new title. We need a new title.
You know what? I think I've got a great new title. You're right. We'll go with this. We'll make that the new title.
Spencer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Shout out to Jay Fry for the first and so far only super chat. My man Jay Fry, thank you very much, Jay Fry. Glad you're here. You're one of our greatest supporters. And shout out to everyone else in the live chat. We got one of the world's greatest mods, Nate, and Carm as well. Andrea's in the house. So we've got a lot of the world's greatest mods. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Vlad, Jonathan Soko, Michelle. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Okay, so we've heard from these guys. Hatun, what are you going to be talking about at this conference? I was really glad you were there last year, by the way, because it was the first time I got to meet you, and it was fantastic, and I'm so glad to hear you're coming back. What are you going to be talking about, Hatun?
Oh, I was expecting you would say that was the first time I regret meeting you. Sadly, you are coming back, but thank you. Just a quick comment on what Anthony said. Anthony, if you remember, Surah Fatiha is also been taken out in some Qurans by early Muslims, so they have a big discussion if Surah 1 is part of the Quran or not.
Don't take out the only clear verses in the book.
Too late for that, I think.
Some people, right?
Yes, some of the Muhammad's companions didn't have Surah 1 as part of the Quran. So what I'm talking about, I think, if you conclude, I'm talking about the history of the, according to Islamic tradition, how different Arabic Qurans appears throughout history and how today we end up having 37 different Arabic Qurans, as well as application of those Arabic Qurans to Muslims. And we will have some drawing or graph class to underline some of those differences so that people can use in their evangelism. So I understand that George will have some different Arabic Qurans where people can have it and then just underline the different words.
Yes.
And you guys, all those different Qurans, you guys did that on a speaker's corner, right? One time, Hatun, wasn't that a famous video?
Yeah, that was back in 2016 or 17.
Were you there holding some of the Qurans?
Yes.
Well, do you remember which Qurans you were holding?
They were the first 26 of them. I still have them.
Oh, okay. So that was quite an investment. I'm sure you guys had a few, but then someone said we're going to be buying a lot of Qurans over the next few months to get ready for that, you know?
Yeah, it came up kind of by accident. We just saw first one by mistake, and then as I traveled, I picked up where I was, and then it ended up having different Qurans. And today you don't even need to buy different Arabic Qurans. Muslim missionaries published a book talking about different Arabic Qurans with the variations in it. So they made out.
We have our first question. George, let's throw it at you first if we can. How do Muslims justify the different Qurans?
They trying to convince us it's just a different accent or different way of saying it, but it's not really different. We were in Minnesota. I put them on the table there, and sadly, majority of Muslims we meet, they don't even know how to read Arabic. They recite the Quran, they say it and say, oh, and like the words are different, and they don't even acknowledge they were different. They are so blinded to the fact that it is not a matter of just sounds or acting like Arabic in Syria and Arabic in Lebanon or Sudan. No, I think Hatun can give us some example of these differences. What the difference?
Some of the differences between.
Yeah, and how they justify it in your situation when you talk to them.
So you will hear it is different accent. For example, in one Quran it is I, in other Quran it is you. Muslims would say, oh, that's just different accent, or it doesn't change the meaning. Apparently, I and you is the same in Islam. Some will say they are fake Qurans. Some will say I wrote them. Some will say I paid people to write that. But overall, general interpretation will be it's just different accent, and all of them are okay. So examples of differences: I versus you. He will move the mountain versus he will not move the mountain. Pharaoh versus Moses. So who Allah is speaking. Creatures versus innocent. Kind of, I've got like lots of examples, if that is not enough.
But also, I did have a response. We did have a response in our team in California. Some young Muslims will take their phones out and they start taking pictures. They're realizing they're being lied to. In Dearborn, Michigan, sorry, not in Dearborn, where was it? Phoenix, Arizona. I have young people and few families, actually, they were there and looking at the different Qurans, and one of them, she started taking pictures, and then I asked her in Arabic, what else they lied to you about? She told me, what are you talking about? I told her, they lied to you, they told you the Quran is perfect, and now you found out there's more than one Quran. What did they tell you about the Bible? And she looked at me, they told me it being corrupted. I thought, if they lied to you about the Quran, then they lie to you about the Bible too. Let me tell you about the Bible. And I start showing her that this Bible in my hand is 66 holy books of God revealed in 1500 years to over 40 different prophets. And I learned that from Pastor Reverend Samuel Green. It's just an amazing way for them to not any longer seeing the Quran and the Bible, two books against each other. No, it's all God's revelation, 1500 years of revelation against one book written in 23 years, two different periods, filled with contradictions. And a lot of time when I use that with Muslims, they take the Bible and they don't want to give it back to me. They see it as so valuable now. This is all God's revelation in one side. Again, it's one book written by one claimed to be a prophet.
Back in 1904, Claire Tisdall, he gave some examples of differences in the Quran, and I got them up on the screen here. This is from his book, A Manual of the Leading Mohammedan Objections to Christianity, and gave examples of differences right there in Surah 28:48, differences right there in Surah 32:6, differences right there in Surah 34:18, differences right there in Surah 38:22, and a difference also in Surah 19:35. And there's many others that you can find. Depends just even how technical you want to get. Sorry, that's from a previous show, because you can get pretty technical on it once you really get into the language, especially. And not only that, but you have the Shiites, and the Shia, they're second largest Islamic sect in the world, 100 million followers or more. They claim that Caliph Uthman intentionally eliminated verses from the Quran that spoke of Ali, since they have this debate about succession. So if that's true, it's even worse. And it's kind of strange they're like admitting, like, yeah, there's corrupt Qurans all over the place, with that. But fascinating. Anybody else want to comment on that?
One of my one thing, this was, so some of the stuff that we're talking about now, like that Hatun has brought out and so forth, that of course has been known at least to Islamic scholars. They've been hiding it. Some of the stuff that you see with people like St. Clair Tisdall and others, they're just making observations, that were a little bit known in the past, but don't even really scratch the surface of the incredible number of variants that have now been unearthed. But here's one that's even admitted. This is just one of a number of them in Yusuf Ali's copy of the Quran. In Surah 33:6, it says, speaking of Muhammad, the prophet is closer to the believers than their own selves, and his wives are their mothers. Now, you might think, well, if his wives are their mothers and he's closer to them than their own selves, then it would suggest, by way of symmetry, that he's their father, right? A spiritual father to them. But that's problematic because, remember, Muhammad had a problem with fatherhood. His own father died before he was born. His grandfather died when he was 6. His mother died when he was 6. His grandfather when he was 8. He went to live with his uncle. And ever since then, he had a sour taste in his mouth with respect to fatherhood. So he denies So Muhammad actually abolished adoption at one point because he didn't like the idea of anybody being called someone's father who is not their literal biological father, right? So this verse, even if it might suggest that Muhammad is the father of people, it doesn't say that. Well, the reason this is interesting is because there's actually a variant that suggests to us that it did say that at one time, which means that Muhammad would have given out the revelation at one time saying that he is their father, but then later when he abolished adoption and the whole idea of being a father to anyone that's not your literal biological descendant, at that time it would necessitate a change of the Quran. But anyways, Yusuf Ali points out
is this the note 3674?
Yeah.
Yeah. Read it.
Oh, I see it. I'm just following along.
Yeah. So I mean, you see it there, right? He says,
yeah. You want to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, can you tell me to read?
Read.
That's not loud enough.
3674. Read.
Wow, you need some serious practice, but okay.
Wow,
In spiritual relationships, the prophet is entitled to more respect and consideration than blood relations. The believers should follow him rather than their fathers or mothers or brothers, where there is conflict of duties. He is even nearer, closer to our real interests than our own selves. In some Qur'ans, is that how you say that? Like that of Ubay ibn Ka'b, occur also the words, quote, and he is a father of them, end quote, which imply his spiritual relationship and connect on with the words, quote, and his wives are their mothers, end quote. Thus, his spiritual fatherhood would be contrasted pointedly with the repudiation of the vulgar superstition of calling anyone like Zayd ibn Haraf by the appellation Zayd ibn Muhammad. Such an application is really disrespectful of the prophet. And that relates to the book I was just holding up. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men. But go ahead and break it down. I never knew that was in here. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and there's other comments like that in his. That's why at one point, Muslims, remember, this was their favorite translation. At least when I started studying Islam back in the mid-90s, this was the translation that was recommended to me. And Christians liked it because of the notes, right? It's got a running commentary. It's like a Quranic, quote-unquote, study. I don't want to say Bible, but I mean, their equivalent, right? So it was their equivalent of a study Bible. It's got running notes, and then it's got other introductions and studies on various topics. And at one point, they stopped circulating it without their editing of it. So there were groups that would edit this, and then there were other groups that just started putting out the translation without the commentary because it proved to be so useful. So I don't know if Muslims now favor other translations because of this or what, but like Mustafa Khattab's Clear Quran is now pretty popular. I guess that's why Uthman. Plus, it looks like it's a lot cheaper. This is more quality material, right? It's easier to drill holes through this one. Hatun knows than no, that's not true.
Other one is much easier to put the holes in it.
Yeah. So anyways, the long and short of it is that Muhammad, he didn't like the idea of fatherhood. And he abolished fatherhood when he wanted the wife of his adopted son. And when his companions criticized him for this, or at least the other Arabs in their vicinity, they said, this is contrary to our law, right? This is unheard of. Nobody has taken the wife of his own son. And so Muhammad did the most radical thing you could think of him doing. On other occasions, when Muhammad wanted special privileges, he would just say, well, this is an exception for me, right? So when I said you could only have 4 wives, that was only for you. There's an exception for me, right? He did this on numerous occasions. But when it came to this matter, when he wanted to justify taking the wife of his adopted son, he didn't just say, oh, this is just a special privilege for me. Instead, he abolished adoption and said Allah doesn't like anyone being considered the father of anyone unless they're that person's actual biological father. And so that's really what's in the background here of 33:6.
No doubt. Hatun, people are commenting on your performance in the Boom Boom Room, saying that you did a great job and people need to watch it.
Oh, thank you.
When you threw the shoe at me. Also, Vlad the Impaler says, say what?
That was out of kindness.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Vlad says, are we allowed to re-upload your videos? Yes, of course. You can use any part of this. Anything you want to do, it's all good. Yes, you can. And you can upload anything. No problem at all. Truth Defenders shared the verse where it says, it's in 33:40, Muhammad is not the father of any of your men. Anthony, remember when we went and got tacos here in Phoenix? Us three, me, you, Louise. Do you remember the name of that place? Because it's right beside my house, and I was going to go back, but I can't remember which taco truck it was. It's literally down the street from my house.
And Truth Defenders made you think of it. Look at that.
Yeah, he did. Louis, do you know? Let us know. Anyways, I had tacos with Truth Defenders just a few weeks ago up in Michigan. So that's the last taco place on my mind. I don't even remember that one.
Yeah.
Well, you were in Michigan. Ooh, hopefully they used out of state ingredients. You know what I mean?
Oh, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think so.
If you are coming to California, I'm going to take all the guest speakers, including Jay Smith and everybody, to taco trucks. If you want to come and join us.
Really?
Yeah. California is
Wow.
other places.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, that's right. Truth Defenders was with us in Arizona for tacos too.
Not only that, but I also want to give a shout out to everyone coming in, including someone named Antichrist Superstar. And of course, Warrior Woman and Karen Wise, welcome back to the channel. Now, there's not only taco trucks in California, there's also the conference. How do people register for this conference, George? They want to go, they're hearing it. What do they need to do?
Go to Ministry to, which is T-O, Muslims, ministry to Muslims.com. Ministry, T-O, Muslims.com. And if you use Malone as a discount code, you get 50% during the next 24 hours.
Hey, all right. I didn't even know. M-A-L-O-N-E, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you spell that. All right.
Yeah, and already there's 50% off if you bought it during August. Plus, and I said additional 50% off of that, then you're going to end paying just 25%. I really encourage you, if you are in Southern California, come in person. If you are not in Southern California, join us online. Invite group at your home and watch it together, or at your church, Bible study, youth group. It's going to be really awesome topics, and it's just important. It's really important, especially for our new generation, that they've been lied to in the university campuses and colleges, that how the Quran is perfect, the Bible being corrupted and all that. It's going to be really great to encourage young people to watch these lectures. And if you sign up for online and you don't have 3 days to just sit in front of the screen, don't worry. It's always going to be there. You just log in again and you can watch it another time. You don't have to finish them all if your work did not allow you.
Where in Southern California, Pastor George?
15-20 minutes from Anaheim. It's called Yorba Linda. It's at the Calvary Chapel, Saving Grace in Yorba Linda, California. We encourage you to sign up as soon as possible, and it's going to help us to be able to know who's coming and how many people coming. But also, if you want to volunteer, feel free to text message me, my phone number at the website, ministrytomuslims.com. You're going to find my cell phone number. Text message me if you'd like to volunteer and help. We have a VIP ticket saying that it's mostly supporting the speakers and the cost of coming and flights and hotels and stuff like that. If you sign up using for that VIP one, it's more like you are supporting the event, but you're also gonna have opportunity to spend time during dinner time with all the guest speakers, and as a thank you in return.
We've also got some more questions here. Rory says, did you know the Quran allows Muslims to steal from unbelievers? Hatun, you want to comment on that?
I even have experiences on that.
Tell us. Tell us, by the way, while you're doing that, I got to fix the background. So there may be some little transitions. But go ahead. Tell us, Hatun. Tell us about your experience.
Well, yes, Muslims can simply steal from unbelievers. Even they can steal the Quran from unbelievers. My 3 Qurans were stolen by Muslims publicly in front of cameras in the public place. And still they have my books. Apparently it is okay. Even in England, you can do that. But Surah 33 also talks about it. Yeah. Whatever is mine is belong to Muslims. They've got that kind of mindset.
Yeah, Surah 33:27. Yeah. Now, what do you think about this? Well, just here we got some encouragement. All these panelists here, along with Brother Sam and Christian Prince, are exposing Islam like Vocab exposes the Hebrew Israelites. Hatun,
and some of those he mentioned are preaching the gospel too. Go ahead.
Yeah, this guy. I'm just putting comments on the screen, people. Hatun, how long have you been involved with a ministry out there at Speaker's Corner? You've been doing it a while, huh? How long?
I've been there since 2013.
2013. So this is your 10-year anniversary of being out at Speaker's Corner, huh?
Well, I wouldn't say put it like that.
No, no.
I've been actively involved preaching the gospel and critiquing ideology of Islam for a while now.
Okay. Hatun Rory also says, have you seen that person whose name is the Light Christ Ministry saying that you shouldn't criticize Islam? What do you think, Hatun? Should we criticize, yes or no, Islam?
Islam is a false ideology. 2 Corinthians 10 talks about it, and false ideologies needs to be destroyed.
Well, can't argue with that. Pastor George, you want to piggyback on that comment?
Yeah, I can just give an example of David Wood and Nabil Qureshi. David spent a couple years sharing the gospel with Nabil. Nabil came in a place where he think, okay, Christianity is 99% true, but Islam is still 100% true. They have to spend another 2 years to bring Islam down. Muslims believe Islam is a perfect place. They are not looking for something else. If we don't bring Islam down for them, they are not going to seek for other place. And I believe there is a time where it is necessary to show and expose Islam. Not because we want to make fun of them, but because we want to see them coming out of Islam to know Christ as a Lord and Savior.
Excellent. Now, Anthony, I got a question for you from K Soko relating to the topic at hand. It's okay. You can take a drink, brother. Go ahead. I'll let you take a drink, man. You feel bad. You stopped. I don't feel bad. You're going to be coughing and stuff. How would you explain to a Muslim the differences in the canon of the Bible, as some have more books than others? So a little bit different off topic, but so maybe quickly, maybe in the topic of Quran criticism and what should be in there and what's not, maybe the conversation about the canon will come up.
Yeah. So the fact that Christians have disagreed with other groups like Roman Catholics or Eastern Orthodox or the Coptics and so forth, it isn't in itself a refutation of Christianity in the sense that it somehow proves Islam to be true, because after all, there have been different collections or codices of the Quran. For example, Ubay ibn Ka'b and others had different numbers of surahs in their Quran copies or their codices of the Quran. So the fact that there are people that would advocate for different collections doesn't disprove the collection of a particular group. Muslims would say that Sunni Muslims would accept all 114 surahs found in this copy of the Quran, for example. They don't think they're refuted in their position just because some other group errantly in their minds leaves out or includes less or more surahs, right? So by the same token, Christians aren't refuted for believing in 39 books in the Old Testament like the Jews of old or like the early Christians, just because some later Christians or those who have called themselves such have tried to add books to the Bible, right? So that's not if it's an argument against Christianity, then it's a sword that cuts both ways, right? They would be cutting off their own neck in order to try and strike at ours, because they have others claiming different codices, including different surahs.
Fascinating. And, not only that, but you have places where if you look, of course, you know this, I'm just talking to the audience, but you have places in the literature where you see verses that are absent, for example, famously, Umar said this: verily God sent Muhammad with the truth, and he sent down upon him the book. Accordingly, the verse of stoning was part of what God Most High sent down. The apostle of God stoned, and we stoned after him. And in the book of God, stoning is the adulterer's due. But apparently, that original revelation, as they would say it was changed, and now in 24:2, the punishment's 100 stripes and been replaced. That's an example. I imagine you guys have had that conversation with Muslims, because there you're talking about specific lines. What do they say? This seems pretty fundamental.
But it's still Muslims following the verses that being removed. They following the stoning today, not the 100 lashes.
Now, why is that? Help me understand that. Why is that?
Because it's found in the Hadith, because Muhammad done it. If Muhammad disagree with Allah, they go with Muhammad, not with Allah.
So Hadith overrides the Quran.
Yep. Like prayers is clearly in the Quran, not mentioning clearly the 5 prayers, mentioned 3 prayers, but the Muslims do 5 prayers because Muhammad done it. If Allah and Muhammad disagree, they go with Muhammad.
And that is why we see, really sad videos of stoning in various situations. Of course, Aisha, again, famously, you guys, this is all old news to you, but maybe some in the audience don't know, right? And Aisha said this: among what was sent down of the Quran were 10 well-known verses about suckling, which prohibited. Then they were annulled by 5 well-known ones. Then the apostle of God deceased, and they are what is recited of the Quran. Anthony, could you explain what she's talking about there?
Oh yeah, have me explain it, because what I
Oh,
look
you
like
want me
the guy.
you want me to ask Hatun? Is that what you want?
I look
I
like the
don't
one that's. Well, yeah. So the rule is that a man can't be with a woman unless they're husband and wife or near kin, right? So a situation arose in which it became necessary for 2 people to be in proximity to each other without other people accompanying them, right? You can be, if you're not related or married, you could be near each other if there's other people present, right? But you can't be alone under any circumstances apart from being related or married. So the situation arose where 2 people needed to be in proximity to each other without the accompaniment of others. And so Muhammad, in order to make an end run around Allah's ruling, said, well, he claimed this was with Allah's approval, but he said that Allah sent down the command that this person, if he breastfeeds from that woman 10 times, this will make that person, in effect, like her son, a relative, right? Because like if you, in Arab culture, remember, even Muhammad, when he was born, his mother gave him to the care of a Bedouin woman to nurse him. And this was a common practice. They thought it was better for the child's health to be raised out in the arid desert and so forth. And the Bedouin women would make money from this. And so Muhammad was raised by, at least from the early years of his life, suckling at the breast of a Bedouin woman. Well, anyone then that suckled at the same breast would be considered a brother or sister, right? If they suckled at the same breast, then they're considered relatives, at least in that sense. And so sometimes in Islamic literature, you'll see that they'll say things like we're breast brothers or sisters or something like that. I forget the exact expression.
We're breast friends.
Yeah, breast friends.
Friends forever, BFFs.
So what Muhammad said is if the people that need to be together do this, then they're related, and now it's okay for them to be together alone because they're kin, right? Now they're somehow related, and supposedly, I mean, the reason they're not supposed to be alone together is obviously so they don't have illicit sexual relations. And supposedly now, if one breastfeeds from another, that's not going to lead to any further action. I mean, this is absurd. It's insane, right? I mean, if they're tempted to do it apart from that, now they're going to engage in this action, and somehow that's magically going to take away any illicit temptation. I mean,
Jonathan Soko says that sounds like a skit. That's how crazy it is.
Yeah, and
It
by
was
the
a
way,
skit.
It was a skit. Islamicize Me, episode 19. Notorious, baby. Notorious. And you better believe I know the exact episode number. That's right. Shout out to Radar Apologetics in the house. Everyone, please subscribe to his channel. The brother does amazing work from a Messianic Jewish perspective, one of the best channels out there. And I just really love what he does. So thank you for the super chat, my friend. And shout out to everybody in the live chat. We got a lot of great comments. Listen, make sure to leave a comment underneath the video, and please comment in the live chat as well. I'd love to hear from you. And we are, getting a couple of your guys' questions here today. And I got some other good questions if you guys are up for it.
Can I just add something what Anthony
Yes.
said before we move to the new question?
Yes.
It is helpful for us to remember so that 10 adult breast suckling verses revealed as 10 suckling out of kindness, Allah reduced that or abrogated that to 5. So in the Quran, it should be as 5 breast suckling. And thanks someone who find the sheep to eat that verse, it's got lost. But a couple of years ago in Egypt, they published a fatwa where if woman needs to work in the company of the man, then adult breast suckling can be practiced for women to be able to be in a halal situation to work with Muslim men. So even though it is abrogated from 10 adult breast suckling to 5, few years ago, Muslim sheikhs said that can be still practiced, even though it is not in the Quran. And another point I want to make is, as we are talking about Ubay bin Ka'b's Quran, Ibn Masud's Quran, how their Quran were different from the other companions of the Quran, Muhammad, those are not the Qurans Muslims are talking today. So all those Qurans, like something happened to them, magical things, they got lost. They are not even under the category of Qurans today. So that's helpful for us to remember, I think.
Yeah, so very serious. According to some counts, we're talking about here verses that the Islamic literature even says are missing. So, according to some counts, as far as textual criticism, in Surah 2 alone, there's 150 variations. Jeffrey gives 94 pages in one of his books to show the variations between the two readings. So, we should criticize the Quran, especially when a lot of what they're saying about it, frankly, is just not accurate. It's just not correct. Now, listen, George, you said at one point that they'll listen to Muhammad instead of Allah. So T.R. French says, so then who's the God, Allah or Muhammad? How would you address that question?
As we know that Muhammad died as a result of poison, I really believe that the way Islam was going and directing that stories, that the story of Muhammad, how it being always upgraded, I really think that Muhammad was going to come in a place where he's going to say he's God manifested in flesh almost. He was raising himself more and more, or let's say his followers was coming, bringing him in a place to be higher. Like you go to any market in Sudan or other country, Islamic markets, you will find the name Allah and the name Muhammad right next to each other on the wall, the same level, the same size. It's not like, okay, he's a prophet, he'll be lower on Allah up here. No, it have to be next to each other. If he spoke against Allah to a Muslim, sometimes, majority of the time, they will not get offended. But you speak against Muhammad, they get offended. Absolutely, I believe they're raising Muhammad to be almost like God. But also the reason they say they follow Muhammad, because the Quran says Muhammad is an example to all mankind. That's their excuse to follow Muhammad. If Muhammad is an example to all mankind, if Muhammad did this, you have to do it. Everything Muhammad does, you go to Muslim neighborhoods, even in America, you find Muslim men have henna, the thing that women use for art in their hands. But Muhammad used to have henna in his beard. They want to do the same. If whatever Muhammad did, they want to do the same thing. It's just copying him. He's their example.
Let me throw this in here, Vocab, because I think this really puts it in perspective. What you're asking is, it really is moving this direction. But here's a Quranic verse to go with this. It's in Surah 4:65. And before I read it, remember what the claim of Muslims is over against Christianity and every other religion. Islam and Muslim, those are two words that are from the same trilateral root, right? In Arabic, it's the same root that these two words come from. And they're supposedly, some Muslims will tell you that they mean peace or something like that, but it really means submission, right? So Islam is submission, and a Muslim is one who submits. Now, the claim to fame among Muslims is that they submit to Allah alone. He's the only one they submit to. Everybody else is guilty of shirk. That is, everybody else violates this principle in one way or another by submitting to someone in addition to God. So notice what Surah 4:65 says. Okay, this is Surah 465 again. No, by your Lord, they do not believe in reality until they make you, it's talking about Muhammad, this is Allah supposedly speaking to Muhammad, they do not believe until they make you, Muhammad, a judge of that which has become a matter of disagreement among them, and then do not find any straightness in their hearts as to what you have decided, and submit to you with entire submission. Okay, so notice this. The Quran in 465 is saying that these people don't have true faith unless they submit to Muhammad with entire submission. They can't have a tinge of resistance in their hearts. That's supposedly the very definition of Islam towards Allah, but here's the Quran saying quite the opposite, that this is to be rendered towards Muhammad. So Muslims claim that they're submitting to Allah alone, but the Quran tells them to submit to Muhammad in this way. And that's what we see being illustrated when Muslims are actually following rules and practices that Muhammad did that may not even be found in the Quran, and in fact, might even go against the Quran.
Can I show you something from the critical Quran that Robert Spencer had? And the very verse you just went to, because you went to Surah 4, right? And then 65. Yeah, listen to what he says. He says there's a variant there. Instead of,
I bet.
they will not believe until they make you judge of what is in dispute between them. The Shiite Bankapur Quran manuscript reads, they will not believe until they make you, Muhammad, and the family of Muhammad judge of what is in dispute between them. What do you think of that?
Because they want to add Ali.
Go ahead, George. Tell us why. Tell us why that verse reads that way.
Let me say this real quick. So George is going to talk about that. But notice, if Muhammad being added in the equation, you have to submit to him, is fundamentally problematic as it is, right? They say Christians are guilty of shirk because we submit to Jesus, right? Well, now if they're broadening it to include the family of Ali, then it's all the more violation of shirk, or what the Quran teaches on that.
George? Simply, the Shia want to lift Ali up, and they want to say that he is supposed to be the first successor. But even some of the Shia, they believe the angel came to Muhammad by mistake. Ali should be the prophet himself. And that's really...
that's the wrong address.
If that angel just could have had GPS.
Yeah, GPS.
God positioning system. Hatun, say what?
I want to ask a question.
Okay, but can I ask you a question first? Or maybe you can comment briefly on this before your question. Mike B points out insulting Muhammad is punishable by death, according to Sharia law, but insulting Allah is not. What do you think of that, Hatun?
My question was actually linked with that. So that goes under the shirk. Sadly, Muhammad is much higher than Allah. You can call Allah mouse and you can get away with that. The moment you kind of just read something from the biography of Muhammad, you can be under the death punishment. So that's just like, let Muslims to deal with that shirk. So you read from the critical Quran, Surah 465 variation, Muhammad and his family. So that means recently Pakistan published a new law under the blasphemy law. So it used to be blaspheming against Muhammad. Now his family is being edited in that. So that means Ali, Caliph Ali, is included as the family of Muhammad. Is that means, I'm just asking the question, is that means from now on, if anyone makes any negative comment about Ali, will be under the blasphemy law as well? Because Shia loves to talk about it, and Shia Muslims are persecuted Muslim group in Pakistan.
Yeah, it's possible. They continue. They have the right to add amendments to their constitution. Fatwas, they call it fatwas. They always adding more and more rules. But also because they have so many hadiths and so many material are so contradicting to each other. is based on what imam decide to add what to take it as essential or not for them. Like that, when you talk about the breastfeeding of adults in Egypt, yes, I read that, and I watched Egyptian Muslims talking about this live on TV. All these years they neglected that, or they were doing it under the table, but now publicly in Egypt is allowed, just because an imam decided to do so, and he brought it back to light again. It's very, very sad how deceived they are.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up in Pakistan with the blasphemy laws. Vlad the Impaler asks if we saw the video of Pakistani clerics crying over the massive apostasy rates in Pakistan. Apparently you have, Hatun.
It was so fun. It is like really sad funny. Of course, it is good that Muslims are walking away from Islam, and we hope and pray that they will hear the gospel and they will respond to gospel. At the end, we don't want people to just become ex-Muslim and end up in hell with Muhammad for eternity while they don't like Muhammad. But in that television program, Imam is like, I think he was Saeig. He's crying like people are leaving Islam, and he just didn't know what to do. It's like sad funny, really funny.
So I guess you have seen the video. Well,
Yes.
you did a video on it, so he knew. Apparently now we know what makes Hatun laugh, everybody.
It is so funny though. Like
Now I know what I'm watching after this.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you want to see Hatun in person speaking live, Pastor George, how can that happen?
Ministry2muslims.com, ministry2muslims.com, and right there in the homepage you're going to find the banner for our Strong Tower, the 22nd Hour Strong Tower. Click on it, it takes you to the registration page, and if you use Malone as a discount code, you get 50% off. And again, if you buy your tickets in August, it's already 50% off. An additional 50% of that off, again, you will end paying just 25%. But who is coming to the conference, Anthony? Who's the
Anthony
speaker?
Rogers. Who's coming to George's conference he's throwing?
Let's see if I can remember everyone. So Jay Smith is coming, Lord willing. Dr. Eddie Dalcor is coming, Lord willing. Dr. Dan Brubaker is slotted to come. Tony Costa is going to be part of it. I think it's possible he's going to be there, but he's probably going to be online.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also
and
David Wood.
I was going to get to Doofus Wood is what we call him around here. David is coming. And, of course, Hatun. And who am I missing? I'm coming, but...
Eddie for, I think
I
that's
mentioned
all.
Eddie. Yeah, I mentioned Eddie.
Daniel
Yeah.
Scott.
Oh, Daniel Scott.
Oh, Daniel
Professor
Scott.
Yes.
Yes.
Again,
I forgot about Daniel Scott, just like some of the early Muslims forgot about certain Quran verses and ayahs and so forth. But
Southern California. It's what are the dates there, Pastor George?
September 8th in the evening, September 9 all day, September 10th after church. Our speakers will be speaking at different churches on Sunday morning, September 10th. If you would like to have one of the speakers, I think Dr. Jay Smith and Dan Bereker are still available for Sunday morning. If you are in Southern California and you want to bring one of them to your church on Sunday morning, please let me know.
Just to clarify, so people understand, the conference is in one place. Everybody's going to be at one place. But Sunday morning, some of the speakers will be in different places just for a particular church service.
Speak at churches during church service. But also on that Friday, if you are locally, we will be doing, before the conference, we're doing an outreach. If you would like to join us, the guest speakers will be with us as well. You can just let me know. As I told you earlier, ministry2muslims.com, ministry2muslims.com. If you go there, you will find my cell phone number. Just text message me. If you need more details, I'll be more than happy to give you that information.
And it takes place around the anniversary of 9/11 every year. What number of years is this you've been doing this conference, Pastor George, the Our Strong Tower conference?
This is the 22nd year.
22nd year?
Yes.
Wow.
On last year and this year, we did the East Coast, Our Strong Tower as well, in North Carolina area, and that will be also, Lord willing, next May.
That's awesome. And one other cool thing about going every year, there's always a lot of great resources. Do you know off the top what are some of the tables that are going to be there? Because I know sometimes there's different ministries there that the person may not be speaking, but different ministries show up as well. What are some of the ministries that are going to be there, maybe, if you remember?
We have local ministries that reaches to Muslims, and we have a lot of book tables, different resources, and books like by Dan Brubaker and other people like Sam Solomon. And also we have some ministries, pro-life ministries, that they usually come and have a table there. And if you have a ministry locally in California or somewhere else, and you would like to get a table as well, please let us know.
Awesome. I got a couple more comments if you guys are ready.
Sure.
Are you ready? Okay, this is from Orthodox Moore. He says there are Muslims, and I would put some, there are some Muslims, but there are Muslims that have no issue recognizing the death of Jesus on the cross and Jesus as the Son of God in the Quranic Arabic. Are they Antichrist, biblically speaking? So, Anthony, I'd be curious to hear your response to that.
Yeah, so one thing I'd want to say very quickly is that as Christians, when we say that we believe the gospel, we don't merely mean we believe in the bare facts that we would sometimes be giving a case for evidentially, right? When we say Christ died, he was buried, he rose again, those are facts that we try and support in various ways, giving arguments, evidences, and so forth. But that's not itself the gospel. The gospel is the God-interpreted meaning of those things. So remember what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15. He said that the gospel that I delivered to you as of first importance is that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures. He was buried and he rose again on the third day according to the scriptures. And so it's always the events together with God's interpretation of their significance and meaning. That's the gospel that we believe in as Christians, the events and God's interpretation of them. And so when a Muslim goes against the traditional reading of Surah 4:157, which says they neither crucified nor killed him, when they still believe that Jesus died, in spite of, again, the traditional reading of that, that doesn't yet mean that they're believing the Christian gospel. They're just affirming that a man died, which isn't all that incredible, right? And, I mean, I would press them at that point, actually, to try and explain then the next verse, because if Jesus did die, Surah 4:158, right after that says, Allah raised him to himself. Okay, that means something entirely different now if Jesus died. Right? If Jesus didn't die and Allah raised him up to himself, then it means he went up there in a body that didn't die. But if he was raised up to Allah after that, it now suggests the resurrection of Jesus and his exaltation to the right hand of God. That's a huge problem for Muslims. Now, the other thing is, I don't know any Muslim that would accept Jesus as the Son of God in keeping with the Quran. It's one thing to think that Jesus died and try and bring that into alignment with the Quran. It's another thing to try and get the Quran to say Jesus was God's son. Now, there are Muslims, I'll tell you, that there are Muslims who, while not believing that Jesus is the Son, have had difficulty with certain statements about Jesus in the Quran that suggest that he's more than a man. For example, certain statements in the Quran identify Jesus as Allah's word and a spirit from him. Well, if that's the case, then he's not merely a man. That's not true of anybody else. Jesus is Allah's word. And so if he's a human being and Allah's word, then it suggests that there are two natures to this man, Jesus, this person, Jesus. And so, again, I mean, you can't, there's no way I can imagine anybody getting out of the Quran that Jesus is the Son in any sense, right? The Quran repudiates the idea of Christ's sonship in no uncertain terms. But there are statements that might suggest to some people that you can read it affirming his deity in another way, right? Not by means of sonship, but maybe by identifying him as the word or something like that.
A fascinating answer, in-depth answer. Hatun or George, I don't know if you want to comment on that. Well, actually, George just disappeared. So, Hatun, do you want to comment on that?
I'll make a comment. Barterman claims that Jesus died on the cross. And he claims that Bible claims that Jesus claimed to be God. His disciples understood Jesus was claiming to be God. So, and he's not a believer. Muslims might claim that Jesus died on the cross. I guess the idea of Jesus to be son of God, it's not only like, yes, theologically, we believe Jesus is the Son of God, but applications of that is very important to us. His father becomes my father. All what he has becomes all of me. Like there is a big theological beauty there. And as Anthony said, it's not like those phrases as a fact, but applications of that in our life. At the end, individuals who are identified as Christians, they are the ones who sees how awful, desperate, and needy people we are. We are in need of God's forgiveness. And the Son of God, out of kindness, he steps in and then gives himself for us. He dresses us with his righteousness and takes all of our sins on himself. Through that, we become all what he has. His father becomes my father. Just like that beauty, and living around that beauty, living in that beauty, enjoying that beauty, delighting in that beauty makes us Christian. So if Muslims identify Jesus as the Son of God and believes that Jesus Christ died on the cross by crucifixion, we take them to the next step. He is not in that grave. That grave is empty because he walked out of that grave. Jesus is identified as the Son of God. Therefore, get on your knees and then repent and turn to him. Help them to get to the next steps instead of like labeling them, are they Antichrist or not? Help them to move to the next step and then become children of God.
Amen. Thank you very much. Looks like George is rejoining us. So let's jump back over. All right, George, you're back. Hatun and Anthony are just giving some great answers to some great questions, which I greatly appreciate. Shout out to everybody in the live chat, and shout out to people just now coming in. In fact, shout out to the patreon.com/vocab squad in the house as well. Now, Hatun, you were just preaching the gospel. So how could people find your stuff online if they're not aware of you and they want to support what you do? How could they do that, Hatun?
I would love to go. I would love to say go to YouTube, but don't go to YouTube. People who go to YouTube, they usually end up hating me. Instead of doing those things, just turn to the Bible, read the Bible, and then take it from there. So, recently someone asked me, and then I said, "You can find me on YouTube if you want any materials or references." And then person went to YouTube. I had this very long email. Like I needed to sit down and read it. And then I needed to pray before I replied the email. So it's not like saying check YouTube is not helpful at all.
Right. Pastor George, you've been doing these conferences and you're still doing them faithfully, as well as real life evangelism out in the streets, on the sidewalks, at the markets and the bazaars and the fairs and the conferences and the festivals and all that. How can people support what you're doing? And maybe they can't go to the conference, but maybe they also want to support the conference itself. It's great stuff. If you can't go, you can still support. How can they do that, Pastor George?
Ministry2Muslims.com, ministry to Muslims.com. On the top, the home page, it's a home. It bring a drop down. There's a support button. They can do that. But also, really, as much as I want them to come to the conference, as much as I want them, my main desire is to see those that watching your channel and other channels to turn to action, to start reaching out to the Muslims next door from them. We have all year long, we have evangelism and training. Every conference we do is linked to evangelism. We were in Phoenix, Arizona in March. We were in Minnesota, the Twin Cities, 195,000 Somalis in the Twin Cities alone, 200 mosques in 2 cities, 200 mosques. And we went after that to Dearborn, Michigan, then Ohio. All year long, we have events. If you cannot make it to this event, please get in touch with us. This way we can keep you updated of the next events. We would love to use your gift, no matter what it is. Ministry to Muslims is M2M Network on YouTube. M2M Network, we are networking all those people that have the gift of teaching, like Anthony, and those that have a gift of evangelism, those have a gift of writing gospel tracts. Whatever it is your gift, would love to partner with you and to reach out to the Muslims that God brought to us all the way to the U.S.
Excellent. Praise God for that, for real. And Anthony, if they want to follow you, support what you do, what about that?
They can just look me up on YouTube under my name, and there they'll find my YouTube page.
Excellent. Let's go around and maybe get the final word on, should Christians criticize the Quran, and maybe even a little tip that if they do, how should they do it? Anthony, you want to go first, and then we'll pass it to the other two?
Yeah, so anybody who's read the Bible should know this answer at the drop of a hat. Should you criticize false ideologies, false religions, false gods, false prophets? Absolutely. That's something the Bible's doing from beginning to end. Many scholars, if you read the literature on Genesis 1, will point out that there's a subtle polemic at work here. It wouldn't have been so subtle to the ancient pagans that the Bible's taking jabs at, right? I don't want to go into all the details here, but some of those out there will understand what I'm talking about. Some of the language being used in Genesis is a direct jab at what the pagans believed, to by contrast. But the Bible's not even implicit for the most part. It comes right out and criticizes false gods. The book of Isaiah, for example, when Isaiah's lambasting the idol makers and their gods. I mean, there's nothing that bespeaks sarcasm, satire, mockery more than that. Elijah with the Baal worshipers and the prophets of Asherah. Jesus laying into the religious leaders in Matthew 23, calling them whitewashed sepulchers and tombs that are made to look nice on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones. All right, that's not exactly refraining from criticism, right? So that sort of thing is found in the Bible all the way through. Of course, we should be criticizing these things. It's the name of the game. We are opposing everything that sets itself up against the knowledge of Christ. We're tearing down everything that opposes Christ, and we are exalting Christ in the place of those things.
Amen. That's exactly right. And I'm excited to see what topic you're going to be doing. You got any debates coming up, Anthony? You always seem to have some debate going on. Or maybe what's the most recent one?
Oh, the most recent one? I think the most recent one was a debate on justification with an Orthodox guy. Nice fellow. His name was Seraphim Hamilton, or Seraphim. Yeah. So that was my last debate, and I can't remember what debate was before that.
Coming up?
Yeah. So
any on the slate?
George just mentioned before the show a possible debate with Shabir Ali, but nothing concrete yet. I did have a guy challenge me the other day to debate Perseverance of the Saints, but I wasn't really interested in that topic. Plus, I don't really know who the guy is, so I thought I'd rather just concentrate on what I'm doing right now. I've got a lot of other things on the table. So
Yes, sir.
unless it really jumps out at me, I'm not gonna be. Shabir jumps out at me, right? I'll debate Shabir any day of the week.
Right. Excellent. Hatun, should we criticize the Quran, and if so, how?
Quran is just a book and not above the criticism. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On contrary, they have divine power to demolish the strongholds. We demolish arguments and every petition that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Islam, through Quran and through Muhammad, keeps billion people captive in itself and making those people to make their way to hell. Lord Jesus Christ give himself for those people. So we need to use the tools to make sure those people know very basics. Those very basics will be, as earlier it's been expressed, that the people whom they love, the people whom they respected, they lie to them about the Quran, such as perfect preservation as well as the character of Muhammad. So those lies needs to be exposed so that people can kind of take the steps to walk away from Islam.
Excellent. Yes, I just put the verse on the screen. Great verse to pick. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Teachings of Islam not only taking people, helping people to make their way to hell, but also causing suffering of my brothers and sisters around the world. Because Quran is very ugly and very dangerous book for my brothers and sisters who live among Muslims. They are being homeless. Their book is being burned. Their worship place is being burned. They are being forced into the marriage. They've been raped. They've been killed. They burned alive. Why? Because there is a book called Quran putting the life of my brothers and sisters in danger. So anyone who claims to love Lord Jesus Christ, I believe, would care about his children. Therefore, would use the opportunities to critique what the Quran says about anything. There are different ways to do that. Very basic level, if you don't know anything, how to do anything, if you really even don't like any human beings, you can simply turn a couple of verses of the Quran and then ask your Muslim friend to explain what that verse says. Surah 4 verse 34. I am concerned, if this teaching is being practiced, I am concerned for Muslim women. It is talking about the wife beating. Surah 9:29. If this verse is being practiced, I concern for myself. Can you please explain this to me? And then compare that teaching with the teachings of Lord Jesus Christ. At the end, it takes 2 minutes to cause Muslims to have doubt in their faith. And then they can walk away from Islam. But if they don't hear the glorious gospel, if they don't see the beauty of Lord Jesus Christ, they will end up in hell, the one they walked away from, with Muhammad for long term. And like that long term is like forever. And in hell, there is no ice cream. There is no sunbathing. There is no ice. Hell is like pretty terrible place. If it was nice place, if it was like Florida or Dearborn or something like that, eternal Son of the God wouldn't step in and then wouldn't nail himself on the cross for that. Hell is horrible place. Therefore, Son of God stepped in to rescue and redeem us. So just approach your Muslim friends and then ask their thoughts if you don't know anything. But if you meet with Muslims who are there to bash Lord Jesus Christ, just use the Quran to bash them as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hatun. And I know people are going to really enjoy hearing you at the conference. And do you still have those shoes that you threw at me?
Yeah, I'm wearing them.
I just wonder. She was deadly with the aim. Pastor George, you believe we should criticize the Quran, obviously, but why? We're bringing it full circle here as we wind down.
At the conference, we're going to dismantle the Quran. We're going to take it apart, not because just we want to make people angry or something like that. That's not the reason, but because the Quran, as my sister said, is the reason that many Christians being suffering across the world. In my country, where I was born, right now there's a war. It started in April 13. But during the last 30 years, over 2.5 million Christians in Sudan being killed. 2.5. That's just one country. But under Islam, it's not just the concern about Christians, but even Muslim, as my sister said, Muslim women are suffering because of the Quran. But also the Quran attacks the essential teaching of the Bible. If Jesus did not die and rose from the dead, our faith is in vain. If Jesus did not rise from the dead, if he was never crucified, then how can he rise from the dead? If Jesus did not die, Satan did not need to send the book to deny that. If Jesus was not God, there was no need for Satan to come and attack his deity. The whole purpose of the Quran is to attack the essential teaching of the Bible. And we do need to expose that. Over 1 billion Muslims in the world are captive of the teaching of Islam, following Islam blindly. Like one example, they say that worship is only to God. Worship only to God. I tell my Muslim friends, I should not be worshiping Jesus. No, only God. Bowing down is only to God. Yes. According to Islam, Muhammad says, if bowing down is permitted for someone else beside God, I will order the wife to bow down to her husband. He's saying bowing down is only to God and it's considered an act of worship. It's only to be done to God. Okay, good. We agreed. But then you ask my Muslim friends, why Satan becomes Satan according to the Quran. According to the Quran, God ordered and commanded all angels to bow down to Adam, to a man. Is acceptable to bow down? Allah himself will order all angels to bow down to man. Is fine, is okay now with you. As long as the Quran said it, it has to be true. They don't question it. Even as clearly they say they don't worship except God. They don't bow down to accept God. But now when Allah ordering the angels to commit an act of shirk, a worshipping man, they have no problem with it. As long as the Quran said it. It has to be acceptable. They don't question the Quran. We must dismantle the Quran in order for their eyes to open to see the reality of what they're following. But we know that really it's only the Lord can open their eyes and their hearts to see the truth. And that's what I know 100% without a shadow of doubt that every one of the speakers that coming, in their heart, they want nothing but to see the Muslims coming to Christ. I know 100% Hatun or Dr. J or Anthony or Eddie or Dr. Scott, all of them, their joy is to see Muslims coming to follow Christ as the Lord and Savior. We are not going after the Quran to make Muslims angry. We want them to think. We want them to question. We want them to ask questions. And that's my desire, for them to come to the truth, to know who Jesus really is and what he done for them.
Amen. That's excellent. Let me show people real quick here the website. So you simply just go here, ministrytomuslims.com, and right here in the upcoming events.
Go to the homepage. If you can go to the homepage.
Go to the homepage, okay.
Yeah. If you can go to the homepage and there's our Strong Tower banner, click on that one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Our Tower.
Click on this right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then here you have all the information, and go down. You're gonna find buy your ticket. Down, more. Go down. Yeah, here, buy your ticket. Click on that. And then choose one ticket. Choose any of the tickets here, and the online or early birds or online, choose one, and then go to checkout. And then you're going to find a place here now coming. It say discount code. You see the discount code? Yeah, click here. Now put Malone
Okay. And hit
and
apply.
go there. Yeah, let's see what happened after that.
Oh, nice.
It
Right?
brought it down to, it gave you $7.50 discount.
Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eight. It's like a half off, basically.
No, plus already discounted $20 off because the regular price at the door is $40. It's already at 20. For the online, actually, is 15 always. Sorry, but in coming in person, it's $40. But in August, if you buy your ticket, it's 20. Plus, if you use this Malone discount code, you will buy it for $10. It's absolutely worth it. That you're gonna receive 18 hours of teaching, and we don't want it just to be a teaching that you listen to, but we would love to interact with you after that and see how we can help you to reach out to Muslims wherever you are.
That's awesome. All right. Well, and the cool thing is you can watch just online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Live that moment, or later on, if your work did not allow you to give you the whole time to be off from work, you can watch it whenever you want.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Well, every one of you, I want to thank you for being here tonight. I think we had a great program. Listen, everybody, pay attention. We're going to be fooling around with our live streaming schedule that we do. Usually we do Thursdays, and then we'll a lot of times do Sundays. Sundays are getting difficult for me to go live on, and so I'm going to try to make a transition here to where I start doing it on Mondays. Oops, that says Thursday up there. Ignore that. And so it'll be on a different day. And this Monday, we have a program coming up with Pianki, DMG poet, who was in Comedicism for years and now is with Christ. And so the program is going to be an interview with him about his testimony called From Kemet to Christ. Awesome, awesome, awesome. If you believe what we do, hit us up on PayPal or Cash App at Street Apologist, PayPal, Vocab Malone at Gmail, and then also patreon.com/vocab, or become a channel member. God bless you all.